Happy Memorial Day. It is too cloudy and too cold to be out in the lake, so we're out on the porch smoking and drinking. And the topic for today is the Great Shift. Now, in order to talk about the Great Shift, we have to go through basically a background. Um, this video series that the Great Shift is going under is this is 30. So I just turned 33 May 13th. This is about what, the 24th, 25th. So almost 2 weeks ago. And so let's get into it. So it's like I've got my notes with me, and right now it's like all of a sudden they're obsessed with you. And when I say you, this video is specifically for like darker skinned men, because like you wake up, not really wake up all of a sudden, but you're going through life all of a sudden, and people are kind of like obsessed like with you. And this was never the case in the past. And like when I say obsession, I really mean like people, certain types of folks want to know like what type of religion you believe in, what do you like to do, what's your background, where you from, why do you talk like the way you do. Like these people are like very overly zealous, and it's almost like causes like it throws up a red flag. It causes like some concern, which is why I call it the Great Shift, because growing up it was never like that. um, and these people who I'm talking about are like the so-called pro-black folks who in the past were always antagonistic towards dark-skinned men. So like in the past, pro-blacks, both men and women, have their own caste system, and I'm pretty sure there's people who can verify this. So basically, both black men, black women have like their own caste system, and the black women were more adamant about this caste system more than the black men were, but still the men were complicit in this caste system in order to appease the women. All right, which means basically, I was born in '92, so growing up until like the 2010s, there was just like Negro caste system, and it went like this. So the brown skinned Negroes, the women in particular, saw themselves as purebred and better than the rest of the Negroes. They weren't too dark, but they weren't white either, which made them, in their eyes and how they treated everyone else, as perfect. Now, the yellow Negroes, or light-skinned ones, were acceptable, um, even though they may have had like trace amounts of white or Native American. And I put these in quotes because I obviously didn't give DNA tests or genealogy tests to these people. And then moving on, the dark-skinned folks, the men in particular, were seen as ugly by default because they were dark-skinned and at the bottom of the caste system or at the bottom of the rung. They were slightly above mixed or biracial Negroes, but mixed Negroes or biracial Negroes were considered to be the mutts, or the like very bottom at the caste system, because their very existence implies that a black man engaged in pleasure with a white woman. A black woman having a child by a white man was overlooked, but on the other end, a black man having pleasure with a white woman and then having offspring was apparently the ultimate taboo, even to this day. But definitely growing up in the '90s, but I don't know how it was before then because I didn't grow up before then, so I can't really speak on it. They'll say, well, it's different, but conversation for a different video. So what did folks used to say? So from elementary school to high school, like dark skin jokes were Negroes' favorite pastime. Well, it was really dark skin jokes and light skin jokes. So it was jokes really on both extremes. So there was animosity on both extremes. Either the dark skinned people got picked on, or the extremely light skin got picked on. So the stereotypes kind of went like this. So the the light skinned folks were seen as like soft or effeminate because in people's mind in the caste system that they had an easier life, which made them, I guess, quote unquote, softer. But on the other end, like the darker skinned people were seen as having a harder life, and therefore was seen on the extreme end from the lighter skinned people. So they would say things like African booty scratcher or walking on hot coals, or you have some jokes that went from like benign to like malicious. But whenever it comes to joking, there's always like a slight undertone to them. But it was apparent as a child growing up in South Carolina that colored folks did not like dark skin, and I cannot stress this enough. It didn't matter whether it was in the low country or the upstate. Now, um, when it came to that, let's see. So we had our own unwritten caste system. I do remember my grandmother telling my mother about playing too much in the sun because she was going to get dark, and this is what I heard from them, not something that I would make up. Now, somewhere in like my 20s, like something changed. So this was like the 2010s, and sometimes I get bored during the day, and I scroll on Twitter, and I noticed some people had called it like the Great Shift, and like the fact that it's on X means that I'm not the only person who experienced this or that this went through with. So we vividly remember attitude towards arts and growing up, and like the caste system that it had explicitly told us. But now it's 2025, and we're being treated like we're the hottest commodity. Like, but with that being said, though, we still have like a long memory of like what things that were said to us, the attitudes that were given toward us, and so when like all this overzealousness comes toward us, all of a sudden, like we have to give people the side eye. I was like, well, this wasn't the case before, so what the hell happened? And so this is why we dub it the great shift in quotation marks, because there's like a shift in attitude, but you kind of have to question it because like you want to know why. Like if this was not the case before, what changed? Like why are folks asking 21 questions? Like why do you want to know so much about us? This, that, and the third. Why does it matter to you or not if I believe in God or date white women? Um, why do people want to go all their way to integrate themselves like in our personal lives? And when I say people, it's like the people who felt a certain type of way before, not people in general, to be very specific. But not only do they want to know the questions to their ifs, but they want to know like the rationales behind the ifs. So the problem with the Great Shift is that they, like the so-called pro-blacks, but the people who really just have like a caste system, act like there's always been like some solidarity between all of us, so between the different spectrums of blackness, even though they explicitly said themselves that it's never been copacetic. So they act like they almost care about us, and us like darker skinned men care about us, what we want, how we feel, this, that, and the third, but it comes off as disingenuous. And so the next problem with the Great Shift is that um, it's almost like the people who weren't interested in before, or who wanted to maintain a caste system, realize that the people who they want to talk down upon have options to go other places or different cultures, different types of women, this, that, and the third. It's almost like they're trying to pull those types of men back into the caste system by playing on this need for community or solidarity, which was never the case and never will be the case. And so, with that being said, like the Great Shift is like a misnomer, and basically what a misnomer is, it's a wrong or inaccurate name or a designation. So it's not that these people in the middle find that people in either extreme are on their same level. It's that they don't, their power structure can only continue if people in the either extreme don't go away. And so that's the main problem with the great shift.